Good evening, everyone. My name is Henry Gamble with Simpler Options, and today I'm going to be taking a look at 3M. A lot of the questions we've been getting and kind of what we've been focusing on here lately is the theme of trading with consistency, and I think there's no better place to look at it on something like that than the idea of trying to buy a new high, because buying new highs is extremely difficult. I think it is a loser's game in the long run. Now, there are people that like to play breakouts and there's strategies that go along with that, but from a swing trading perspective, where I love trading options, it's very difficult to buy the new high. So what makes this case of 3M a different example, or why am I willing to try and buy this one actively, on Tuesday, Wednesday, essentially towards the first part of this week? I'm going to see what Janet Yellen has to say tomorrow and see how the markets react, but this will be a go-to for me if the markets start to rally. So, as I look at it here, what makes this new high different from the high we're seeing here? Well, the first thing that I like to point out is the maturity of the squeeze, because the first time this formed, it had a very awkward way of firing. It tried forming here and kind of pulled back, didn't ever really get anything going. This squeeze is much more mature. It's had several days where it's sat in consolidation. This doesn't really bother me in it too much. It tried firing long, but the pattern wasn't damaged at all. Essentially, what it just shows me is that the squeeze looks a lot better. Then, if we come back over and reference the weekly chart, I love seeing that this pierced up into its new high. That kind of gets all these people that enjoy buying and jumping in and chasing that, and then it holds the pullback to the 10. That's a very aggressive moving average, but it tends to work very well on the weekly charts, and when I see something that continues to close above that time after time, then I really want to try and give it the benefit of the trend, or if the inverse of this was true, then I try playing it short. So once we've identified that the pullback on the weekly chart held, and that's very strong, and we know the daily chart may be getting ready to break out, the next question you want to ask yourself is, does your upside potential make sense in relation to what you may have to hold through? So for that, I like running this previous swing high against the low that was made during that pullback towards the 10, and then just recognizing my extensions. So here, in the case of the weekly chart or the broader pattern, you have a move up into 171 that would be your target. I always give myself back to the 21 EMA as far as having to hold into support. So what I would say on this is essentially you've got about $3 worth of heat that you may have to hold through if you buy here. But then coming over and taking a look at the targets, essentially, you're risking about 3 to make 2, which isn't bad. It's not ideal. But the other thing too is, of course, you could hold a chunk of it up into 174, where if you take 2/3 off at the 1272, the 1/3 off at the 174.60, that can really make up for the risk that we're talking about there on the $3 to the downside. So the more you will focus on not buying things when they're at their weekly extension, let them make that high, let them hold the pullback, and then that just tends to produce more consistent results. So I hope you guys find that helpful. Those patterns have been one of the best things that I've added into my trading, and I use them every day. If you have more questions on these topics, or just how we like to look at these in our day-to-day activities, we are going to be hosting a webinar. So John will be doing this tomorrow. This is going to be Tuesday evening, on how to generate consistent trading results. So on topics along the lines of the patterns that I've discussed and the bullet points that you see here. I think it's been a great thing to focus on and add to our trading in 2015, and I hope to see you guys there.